we're going to move on to making our very own custom payment schedules to pay down this debt. And I'm going to show you how, and we can predict the interest charges and everything else in the next part. So now we're in to the meaty part of it all, and that is making a schedule to get this debt off of our nerves. It gets really mathy in this section, so that's why I wanted to have like a designated spot where you guys can come and check the calculations out for yourself if you need to come back to this video when you set up yours yourself, because you're gonna follow along with me, okay? I copied and pasted just the same exact table that I had from my other one up top because we need to reference this, right? And this is gonna be my debt repayment plan. Let's start with the Quicksilver. I picked this one because it's the easiest, because there's not a lot of activity on it, and I can predict the balance. Now, often, like I said, just like we look at the due date as really like, okay, I made this payment on the due date, we really look at our balance, and that's what's driving us as well. But there's a lot of things that go into figuring out that balance, and I think I didn't hack the system. It probably wasn't hard to find, but I just didn't know. I was uneducated about how these interest rates were really calculated. So I think I figured it out. It's hair, something like that. And we need a plethora of things, okay? Remember how I told you to open your statement? Go all the way to the last page, right? The last page is always intentionally left blank. So the page right before that, that's where the sneaky little information is about your interest calculation. It's buried in there. And I wish it was as easy as, okay, what's your balance and what's your APR, and then that's your interest. But that's not the case. The balance accrues interest on a daily basis, and your interest rate determines your daily rate. So in this section of this chart we're about to put together, okay, we got a lot of things across the top. Daily rate, balance, interest percent, dollars, utilization, decreased percentage, minimum payment plus interest, paid, and pay date. Start with the easiest one, paid. That just is like you check it off when it's paid. So I'm going to put a checkbox there. Pay date is the day that you're going to pay it. So start off with an apostrophe, and this is going to be April 1st. So we're going to start with my Quicksilver, and I have majority of it filled in, but I'm going to fill in the top line with you guys so that we can break everything down. Grab your statement, go all the way down to the last page. At the very bottom, there should be a box that says interest calculation. Zoom in on that, and I'm going to put mine up on the screen as a screenshot just so I don't share any like personal info by mistake. We want the purchase APR. We are also assuming, number one, that we're not using the card between our payment date and our statement date. But number two, we're assuming that we are not doing any type of cash advances or anything like that. Grab that percentage. For me, right here, you see it's 28.74%, and I have it. That's what I have up here. Okay, we agree. Now you see that little P next to it. Yours may have a different letter, but down below you see if the code next to your APR is P, that means that they calculate my APR based on prime rate plus margin. And that means that my APRs will change on the first day of the billing cycle that end in these 4 months. So once per quarter, my APR will change, and we'll go through that as we go. So January, April, July, and August. Our daily rate is the amount of interest that accrues on a daily basis. So yes, 28.74 is my interest rate, but that's an annual. You want to break it down by day. So there are 365 days in a year. We're starting off strong here. So we're going to do our interest rate divided by 365. We are also going to anchor this first cell reference, and I don't want that cell to move. I want it to always reference that because we're only focusing on Quicksilver. So then I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to carry it out about 7 or 8 decimal places because it's going to be a tiny number. So this is telling me it's going to be 0.00784% per day. What does that mean? Not a lot to you, but it just feeds into our calculation, right? Balance. Now we're using today's balance just for ease of entry. Again, this Quicksilver card does not have any activity, so it's easy to determine that. Today's balance is $6,334.36. 7, and I know that Audible is going to hit for $14.95. So that's going to hit and bring my balance to $6,349.32. That's what I'm predicting that my balance will be day of my due date. So interest percent. So what we're going to do is the daily rate. So we're going to hit equals and then reference this cell. The daily rate times, which is the asterisk, the number of days in the month. The number of days in the month, if it crosses over month like mine does, mine is from the 7th through the 6th of the month, okay? We are focusing on the month in which that statement date ends. So even though I'm paying this on April 1st, my statement date is when? April 7th. April has 30 days, so we're going to multiply our daily rate times 30, and that gives me 2.36%. Good. So that means every day, whatever my balance is, they're adding on 2.36%. So in dollars, that would be equals your balance times your interest. So I get $149.98. That is what I'm predicting that Capital One is going to say my interest charge is on my statement that's going to come out April 7th. Okay. So utilization. This is where we are going to figure out right now in time, freeze, how much of your credit card are you utilizing. Now I could take it from the screen before, but I also added in Audible, which hasn't really happened yet, but it will happen before I pay this bill and my statement is generated. So I'm going to take that balance that already includes the Audible, and then I'm going to divide it by our limit, which is up here in F4. So before we click out of that cell, we want to anchor that limit because we always want to reference that number, that's 7,500. Okay, and then hit enter. So right now, I'm going to be using 84.66% of my balance, which again is in the red, and that's why this is red. I also formatted these cells to change based on the numbers. So let's say freeze right there. If I want to pay all this off, what do I need to do? First, determine how long you're going to give yourself to pay it off. I chose 14 months. I don't know if that's a little bit too aggressive or anything just yet. I'm going to try. So how much do I need to pay off to every month in order to reach my goal in this amount of time? So if I'm saying I want to pay down 84.6, get it down to 0 in 14 months, what do we have to do? We have to divide that by the amount of time you're putting in. So I did utilization divided by 14. And you always want to put this number in months. Why? Because we're doing monthly payments. So if you want to pay down your balance in 3 years, put 36. 3 months, put 3. A year and a half, put 18, so just convert it to months so that you get an accurate snapshot here. So that's 6.05% that I need to pay every month for the next 14 months in order to hit 0. I also want to anchor this down to always reference this starting utilization percentage. So what does that equal in dollars? We're going to do the same thing. That is the limit here times the decrease percentage. And then again, we're going to anchor that limit. So my minimum payment needs to be $453.52. But wait, you make that payment is good. That's a good size payment. For someone with my income, that's a good size payment. Nonetheless, that's a good faith effort. That's more than the minimum payment that they're going to give you. This is the minimum payment for yourself. So this number should be more aggressive than what the credit card company is telling you, because they could be telling you to pay $215 is your minimum payment. And you're like, okay, cool. That's just to keep you on the hook for as long as they can, in order to draw this out for as long as they can. So they do this the same way, child. So if they can only, spread it out for 72 months or whatever, 5 years, then they're going to enter 72 and see what their minimum payment needs to be. Let's do that for shits and gigs, right? For 72, they're going to say, oh, your minimum payment is $88.19 due before the 1st. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can pay that. What you don't realize is that's drawing it out for 72 months. So this number, while it should be realistic, it should be more aggressive than what your statement says for sure. But when you make that $453 payment, which is good, you also have to know that they're going to throw in what? interest on top of that. So your payment is going to decrease, like the impact of your payment is going to decrease by the amount of interest. So what do we want to do? We want to add that back in. So like I said, I want $453 to come off my balance. Not 453 minus 149. No. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our minimum payment that we figured out plus our interest that we are predicting that they're going to charge us, add that together, and then that's our payment. $603.51. Like I said, that's super aggressive, maybe too aggressive for me. I may need to change this around a little bit. Hey, I'm gonna try. We're putting it in God's hands at this point because that's all we can do, right? That is all the information that you need. Again, your daily rate, balance, interest, dollar amount, percentage, your utilization, how long it's going to take you, then the decreased percentage, and then from there you can find your minimum payments. After you do that, trust me, it's really mathy and really wordy just because I'm explaining it. But as you go through, it'll be like clockwork. Once you have this entered, you don't have to enter it all the time, only if something changes, okay? So I'm going to unhide the rest of my cells here because I have my whole table done. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. I did the conditional formatting the same way. Then over here, we can look and see, I'm not going to get out of this red based on this schedule. I'm not going to be out of it till October 1st at best. And this is with me making $600 payments. It's slow going, but hey, we're making a good faith effort here. Keep an eye on your interest percentage column. So yes, you can take the first calculation that you did and drag it all the way down. Then what you want to do is go back into your interest percentage and change your number of days. So yeah, this is my schedule, and as you can see, your balance should decrease and in turn decrease your interest, in turn decrease your payment that you're making. What does not change on here is the daily rates column and then the decreased percentage column. We always want to keep this the same just so we can spread it evenly over the month. If there is a point where you miss a payment, it's easier to go back and just recreate the table from that starting point where you can just, start over and copy and paste the same formulas. So yes, if you add up all of your months, like this 6.05 and multiply it by the time frame that you gave yourself, you should always end up back at your very, very first utilization percentage. So 6.05 times 14 is 84.66. So every month I'm chopping off 6.05% down until my last payment only has 6% left, which is $468. Now the calculation is a little bit off, so just due to rounding, so my final payment will be anywhere from $468 to $479, anywhere in between there. So be prepared to pay $479, but it can be as low as $468. That's the very last thing. According to my schedule, I won't be done with this until May of 2026. Yeah, that's where it starts. Which is 14 months from now, yeah. And then down below, I have some totals, okay? My total interest that I'm going to be paying, this column, $1,143.40. And that is best case scenario given that I can actually pay this off in 14 months. That's why and how these credit card companies stay in business, just based purely off of interest. So even though my starting balance was $6,349, I'm going to end up paying $1,143 in interest. So it's going to cost me $7,492 to pay off $6,349. Somewhere in between there and what this total was a $75.06. So there's about $13.64 difference that it'll fall in there. So it's pretty close. So let's do the same thing. I want to set one up with you guys from scratch that I do not have hidden down below. Okay. So let's do the Walmart card and let's say we want to pay that off too. We're going to toss this one in and say Walmart. Now that's another card where it's easy to predict the balance. Oh, let me go back and tell you. So with the balance column, how you would get that is to just do your best Do your best at predicting like what's going to be on there. Like I said, it's easier if you don't have a lot of activity. So the only thing I had to do was go back and take my starting balance minus my payment that I'm going to make, and then I'm going to add on another $14.95 every month to that. But if you have a lot of things going on, which I understand because I do, like on my Sapphire, it'll be a little bit trickier, especially if they're not fixed amounts. Like my NICOR bill on my Chase Sapphire, it's all over the place. So you're just going to have to find an average and do your best. You just want to get like a roundabout number. If you can get it within like $50, that'll be fine. Okay, that's not a big variance when we're talking these numbers. When we talking commas, being within $50 is really good. Like at work, I'm happy if I get within $10,000 because these companies, right? I'm budgeting millions and millions of dollars. And if I can get it down and say, oh, I was only $10,000 off, that's pretty good considering the overall, in the grand scheme of things. So don't worry about getting the exact dollars and cents like down to the science. We just want to have some bearings, right? So let's do our Walmart card. And let's say I want to pay this off and be aggressive and say 9 months, right? So this is my 9-month Walmart payment plan. Again, I'm sure I'm going to have to make some adjustments to this after this video, but I want to give it like a good gusto, like a good go here. So our daily rate on our Walmart card, what are we going to do, class? We're going to find our interest rate, which is 28.99, and we're going to do what? Divided by 365. I'm not even typing the right thing, my brain, by 365, and then we're going to anchor down the cell, meaning the column and the row. Okay, it's going to give us zeros. Why? Because it's a teeny tiny number and we need to increase it to like 7 decimal places, right? What we do need to find out is what is our balance. So my balance today is $14.35.56. Why are you giving me percentages right now? $14.35.56 is where I'm starting at for this Walmart card. So we find out what is that in percentages. Oh, it does help if you put your pay date down over here first, or where you need to change your APR. So we're going to do our interest rate equals the daily rate times the number of days in that month. So that's giving me 2.38%. And in dollars, that is our balance times the percentage here. And that's $34.21. It's much lower with this because my balance is much lower. So my utilization is going to be my current balance divided by my current limit, which is always going to be the same. So we're going to anchor down that limit where it is. So that's telling me I'm using 57.52% of my Walmart card. I want to find out how much of my card do I need to pay off to meet this 9-month goal. And that is, we're going to divide our starting utilization by the number of months. So the time frame in months. And that's going to give us 6.38%. So let's go back and anchor that reference to that utilization cell because we always want to reference that. So I need to pay 6.38% a month, every month for 9 months to get this down to 0. All right. And so what is that in dollars? We're going to do the limit times the decrease percentage here. So that's a minimum payment of $159.51. Let's go back and anchor that limit again, the F8, so it does not move. But remember, we want it to stick. We said what we said. We said we wanted to make it $159 difference. So we're going to add the minimum payment plus the predicted interest. So I actually need to pay $193.71. Now, what I'm saying is these were getting are little like unmanageable, like the more you keep adding to it, right? So if I add that with my, this Quicksilver, I'm already at $797.22. So it's climbing up there, but remember, this month alone, I paid $1,404 towards debt. So I'm only like halfway there at this point. Granted, I'm halfway done with my cards, but we'll have to see as we go on if this is actually feasible. We're gonna go down and go to the daily rate column, the next one, and we're gonna drag that down. And we're going to drag it down until we have 9 months. Oh, I almost had it. And like I said, this card doesn't have any recurring charges set up to go to it, so the balance is easy to predict. So that I'm just going to take my balance minus my payment that I made. And yeah, we don't need to anchor any of that down. All right. So this is saying, now we're on May 1st, right? So this is saying on May 1st, I think that my statement balance is going to be $12.41. So I want to get that down, right? My interest percentage, I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag that all the way down to the end also, because that's not going to change until we change the number of days in the month. The interest dollar is always going to reference that minus that. I'm sorry, that times that. So we're going to drag that down as well. Now it's going to give you some blank spaces here because we haven't filled in our balance yet over here, but we will. And then for the utilization, this is what we want it to be after we make our payment. This is what we want to be reported to the credit bureaus, right? So that's just our starting utilization minus what we decrease it by. We're going to drag this 6.38 all the way down. That's not going to change because we anchored it. And then we're going to drag this all the way down. Yeah, so it'll put us right at the end of the year. Our interest in dollars this month is going to be $29.59. As you can see, it gets lower because our balance got lower. We're going to drag that all the way down and see what we need it to be. And it should always be the same because our limit is not changing. So we always want to pay 6.38% of the limit. The limit is always going to be $2,500, and then 6% of $2,500 is always going to be $151. So it's fine that this column does not change. What should change is the payment plus interest. So we're going to drag that all the way down. And here you notice it's all the same because we don't have any numbers over here. So then we're going to go back to our balance column, and we don't need to anchor this because we want it to be a moving target. We want that cell to always reference the cell above it. So we want it to move. We don't need to put in dollar signs. So once you have that, you want it to be the balance minus your payment that you're making over here in green, for example. So this is your minimum payment in orange. Always wanted to reference that. So we're just going to drag it down. And there we go. Let's see. Let's see what it's doing. We have it, yes, getting smaller. It gets down to $9 here. So yeah, our last payment is going to be tiny. But what we do need to change, remember, are the days where our are the months where our APR is going to change. And this daily rate is what decreases by 1%. So before, my interest rate was 28.99. It goes down to 27.99 for 27.99 for that month. Okay, so you have lower interest there. And then again in July, so we're going to change that to be copy and paste. So we're going to put that in July and then again in October. And then January is not listed. Okay. Then I'm going to I'll adjust the Quicksilver balances as well. But yeah, that looks more like it. So these are the months where it changes. So honestly, I can actually, if I stay on track with this, I can pay this off early. I gave myself 9 months, but it does not look like it. Like I wouldn't hold on to this last $8 payment to make in November. So I would just simply add an additional payment here to, I was typing what I was saying. I want to add an additional payment here just to get that off so that last payment isn't a $10 payment. It's going to be this plus this 22 cents. So if I stay on track, my last payment will be anywhere from $8.82 to $9.03. Again, the range is pretty close. Now, my APR for my cards did go down this year, like 1% across the board. I don't know why, but we're going to assume that in 2026, it's going to be the same. It's not going to go down another percent. So I'm going to do the rest of my cards, speed through this, and I'll meet you on the other side. Okay, I wanted to come back because I hit a little snag. Okay, I want to show you what my Sapphire card looks like. I did all the other ones and I saved this one for last, and I was a little bit stumped, but I figured it out. Your daily rate is always going to be the same unless it's one of those months that's listed in your interest calculation where your months change. The interest percentage is always going to be based on the number of days in that billing cycle / the number of days in that month that your statement ends. So it should always be 30 or 31. And for 2026 and 27, February has 28 days. So I made that adjustment as well. So you can see here, no, you can't. You can see the formula here. I did it times 28. Where I hit a snag is, if you can tell, my balance isn't going anywhere. She's not moving. So I have my decrease percentage. First of all, I'm saying I want to pay off this Sapphire that has an $8,000 balance in 24 months. I was like, oh, okay. So I went through, I'm at 77.3 right now. I need to pay off at least 3.2% every month, right? Cool, that is $335, or if I want to add in that interest, it's $508. Okay, so I drag it out for 24 months and I make my adjustments in the daily rate and the interest columns, right? But I'm like, okay, checking everything, I'm decreasing by 3.2, and I get down here the 24th month, my balance is still $7,804. And that is because every month, the amount of the bills that I have going there equals about $502. So I was like, wait, okay, that's another 502 going in, but I'm only paying what I'm adding back in. So it looks like the best version of this model that I've been showing you guys is to not use the cards at all, or make sure that what's hitting is less than your payment that you're going to make. So if I have $502 that are going to hit, but I'm only making a $250 payment, and then they're adding on the interest right back to that, I'm not making any progress. So this is saying that on average, my gas bill is $100, and on average my dog's Chewy bill is $100, which that seems to be correct. So that's how I got the 502 among other things. But that's not going to work for me, because if I only have to pay down 3.2%, that's my exact payment. So I'm going to have to either not use this card, move them to another card, or cancel some shit. What's on here? Subscriptions. I'm going to do a subscription cancellation video because I need to go in on that. I mean, I pretty much need what hits on here. It's like car insurance, the gas bill, and just like miscellaneous stuff that I don't need to survive, but I need to take them off in order to survive this apparent apocalypse. If I don't cancel them, my only two options are to pay cash from my Chase debit card or to move them to another credit card, which moving them to another credit card is just gonna move the problem to another credit card, and I'm gonna have to extend that one. I don't want to do that. I think my best bet is to go on and cancel some stuff and see what I can pay in cash. Let's say that I stop using this card altogether. I'm just going to put +0 in there for now, just so this model works correctly and so I can see. Okay. So it looks like if I stop using the card altogether, my interest goes way down real quick. These are some pretty big jumps in the interest world, especially for this card for me. So it looks like I only need, quote unquote, how many months is this? 19 months at this rate to pay it off if I stop using it completely. So let's see, that's best case scenario. Let's say if I have to keep on half of those bills, so another $250 a month is going to be added back in. Let's see where I end up at. See, that puts me way over. So I went from being able to pay it off in 19 months to now it's more than 24 months. So let me see if I can find a sweet spot for these. Yeah, because this is all +0. Okay, if I plus 100 What's that gonna do? $100 gets me closer, but it still puts me over by about a month. Dang, girl. Plus $80. Okay, payment plus the interest would be that. So it's going to be between $149 and $152 for the last payment in March of 2027. So if I want to pay off my Chase Sapphire card in 24 months, okay, from now, that is March of 2027, I have to reduce my monthly spend by $420. 502 minus 80, yeah, $422 has to come off this card every month, which means, again, cancel or use cash. That's my next journey. You guys, help, send help. So if I add all these up, that is a total of $9,888.78 on a on an $8,045 balance. Yeah, I'm going to have to pay $2,029 in interest over 24 months. Let's see what all this looks like together, shall we? I don't know what that was. Let's see what this all is together. Let's say, because he gonna take care of me, right? Amen, amen, choir. Let's add up every payment that I have predicted for April 1st. $1,440. Okay, that's not bad. Wait, you know what? My platinum isn't in there because I was like, okay, I missed a month with my, I got off track with my platinum, so I added a month. So I'm like, I'll just divide this by 2. It's $800 and something. If I divide this balance that I have now by 2, divided by 2, $445.97. So that means April and May, I'd be paying $1,886 toward debt, if that's possible. For April, I wouldn't have to move anything because the bills that are going to hit my Sapphire from today through April 1st is only going to be $46.13. So I can take advantage of that by paying $508 and really having it make an impact for May. Then in May, I'm going to have to come up off of another, what was that, $422 of cash to cover what was on my Sapphire card. Let's say I keep everything, I don't cancel, and I just move it over to my debit card. That means I'm going to be paying $2,308 a month. So $1,800 of it is to debt. $422 is now moving from my balance sheet to my P&L. Or I can pay less on this platinum, draw it out a little bit more. Or let me see, what would my minimum payment on this platinum be? But again, that's just going to draw it out for forever. My minimum payment is only $37. So that would give me a little bit more wiggle room for this $422. But I'm not coming off that $422 until May. I'm not going to feel it until my May 1st payment. Yeah, so then that means I can pay the $445 for the platinum, and that'll be $1,800 because this won't hit until May. So in May, I'll have $2,300 to pay. But then in June, this will drop off. And I'll go back down to 1862 to being on track. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a plan. Now I just have to stick to my budget to make it come true. Okay, so that's all my credit cards at. Let's see how close we can get to this. And now is a time where I have a mini existential crisis and I go dive face first down into my pillow and scream. And then we find a way. We find a way. I will be putting the final calculations on the screen because I know I went back and forth. I should have trusted my first instinct, so I'm sorry for the confusion with that. But I will have everything spelled out down below and on the screen for me to make those adjustments because I'm not filming this again. I cannot bear to look at these numbers again. I will cry. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know if you are recreating this debt dashboard. Like, what are your repayment plans for Q2 of 2025? We can do it. We're in this together. I hope you're doing as well as we can be at this point, right? So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.